This meeting is being held on September 15th, 2021 via WebEx teleconference and webcast with no physical public locations pursuant to Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-08-21 dated June 11th, 2021. I would like to ask our WebEx moderator to please explain the format of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So before we get started, I would just like to remind committee members and senior staff who are not speaking to mute their microphones. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder or simply mute the microphones. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the chair reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, public comment will be requested. At the board's direction, I will turn on and announce the opening of the Q&A feature, also known as the question and answer panel. It is not necessary to identify yourself in order to make a public comment. Please note that the Q&A feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. Once you're given permission to unmute yourself, a member of the public will verbally state their comment. The Q&A feature is not to be used for typing out questions or for committee members to communicate with each other. If any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subjected to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views for the sake of the members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the committee. Also, just a reminder that you will have, for the sake of time and everyone on this meeting, you will have a 2-minute time limit, and I will give you a 30-second warning. And with that, I return the floor over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 2 of the agenda. At this time, I would like to ask Angela to call roll to establish a quorum.
Good morning. I'm going to call each of your names to see that you're present, and glad to have you all here today. And Chi Elder.
Present.
Bertha Sanchez Hayden.
Present.
Wendy Hatch.
Present.
Denise Nellison.
Present.
Elizabeth Ichikawa.
Present.
And James Moore. I believe James Moore is still trying to log on, so once he is on the call, he will let us know. But with 5 members present, we do have a quorum established.
Thank you, Angela. Item number 3 of the agenda, I would like to ask the committee members and Bureau staff to introduce themselves. I am Chi Elder, Chair of the Advisory Committee. I'm an appointed public member appointed by the Senate Rules Committee, and I'm based in San Diego, California. As I call your name, please introduce yourself. Bertha Sanchez Hayden.
Good morning. My name is Bertha Sanchez Hayden. Thank you for the introduction, Chi. And I'm based in Los Angeles, and I am the legal services representative on the advisory board, appointed as well.
Thank you. Wendy Hatch.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Hatch. I'm a licensed professional fiduciary based in Long Beach and member of the advisory committee. Thank you.
Thank you. James Moore.
He is still not on the call. We're still waiting for him.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll come back to him. Denise Nelson.
Hi, I am a former social worker and in the field of aging, and I'm now retired.
Thank you. Elizabeth Ichikawa.
Good morning. I am a supervising court investigator based in Solano County.
Thank you. Rebecca May.
Good morning, Rebecca May, Bureau Chief, Professional Fiduciaries Bureau.
Thank you. Fred Chan Yu?
Fred Chen, UDCA Legal Counsel.
Thank you. Angela Kadra?
Hi, I am Angela Quadra, and I am the program analyst for the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. And it looks like James is now on the call.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome, James. We are introducing yourselves. Would you please introduce yourself? Mr. James Moore?
Hi, this is James Moore. I'm a professional fiduciary here in Sacramento.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4 of the agenda, please allow me to briefly address this agenda item. California law prohibits advisory committee members from discussing, taking action on any matter not on the agenda. However, this item offers an opportunity to the public to comment on items that are not listed on today's agenda. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the advisory committee members and is not meant to be a discussion between the advisory committee and the public. Although this may seem at times like advisory committee members or bureau staff are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensuring the rules of the Open Meeting Act are followed. Before the committee asked for public comments, I asked individuals making comments to not discuss pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the Bureau's legal counsel. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications by potentially providing information to the Bureau's legal counsel outside of the administrative record in a case. The committee strongly asks that you also respect the privacy of others by not revealing the names, other personal information, and conditions of any individual involved in any case or complaint. The advisory committee can receive comments regarding the Bureau's processes in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific cases. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you may request that item be considered for a future meeting agenda. However, a request does not obligate the Bureau to fulfill that request. If your comment is related to an item on today's agenda, please wait until we get to that agenda item. Comments at this time are only for items not on the agenda. To allow the committee sufficient time to conduct its full schedule of business, public comments will be limited to 2 minutes apiece. Please do not duplicate or repeat the comments of a previous speaker. I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will open up the Q&A panel and we will display instructions for reference. If any member of the public would like to make a comment at this time, please type, "I would like to make a comment," or comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. If you are not seeing the Q&A panel, please click on the question mark within a square in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We will give you a moment to access this feature. This is the moderator, and Madam Chair, at this time I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item number 5, the agenda.
Hi, this is Rebecca May. I'll read our mission statement. To protect consumers through licensing, education, and enforcement of the Professional Fiduciaries Act by promoting and upholding competency and ethical standards across the profession.
Thank you. Any comment from the committee members? To allow the committee sufficient time to conduct its full schedule of
Madam
business.
Chair, sorry, this is Fred Chen, DCA Counsel. If we're gonna go ahead and allow committee members to comment on the reading of the mission, it's only appropriate if the public also gets an opportunity to comment on that as well.
Oh, sure. Do we have any comments from public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've made the Q&A panel available, so if any member of the public has a comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions for your reference. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any comments from the committee members? Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Moving on to item number 6 of the agenda. Are there any suggested edits by the committee members to the June 23rd, 2021 meeting minutes? If there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Wendy Hatch. I move that we approve the minutes from the June 23rd meeting as presented.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there a second to the motion?
This is Jim Moore. I second the motion.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion from the committee members? Any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment in the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. We'll give you a moment to access the feature. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
If there are no comments, Angela, would you please do a vote by roll call?
Hello. So a vote of yes will be to approve the minutes as written to be posted on the website as I call your name. She Elder,
Yes.
Bertha Sanchez Hayden,
Yes.
Wendy Hatch,
Yes.
Denise Nellison,
Yes.
James Moore,
Yes.
Elizabeth Ichikawa.
Yes.
Thank you. With a yes vote from 6 members, the minutes will be posted as written to the Bureau's website.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 8 of the agenda, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office to present the budget update.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Karen Munoz. I'm the budget manager for the department and overseeing professional fiduciaries. What I was going to do is going to go over the 2 documents that is in the agenda. But what I also was asked by Angie was to kind of go over the budget process, more of just an understanding of what our roles are in the budget office and the expectations, and also just a little bit of a more overview of the 2 documents that we will be going over and sharing with you. I want to start off with saying that the budget office, our main role is to facilitate the annual budget process for the department and for all of our boards and bureaus. And what that budget process is, the process is a statewide process to how a budget is developed and ultimately enacted into law. And when I say that through the annual budget process, the fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. We are currently going through the first process of it. There are 3 stages to this process that we refer to. The first stage being the fall process, which is the development of the governor's budget. The governor's budget, which is enacted or which is proposed in January 10th of the following year. So how we start this fall process and when we start doing these incremental changes. We plan 1 year ahead and develop these based on your base appropriation. We use your existing budget as a baseline to incrementally adjust this based on instructions provided by the Department of Finance through budget letters. Typical adjustments that we see come through annually are the salary and benefit adjustments and budget change proposals. These salary and benefit adjustments that we see are usually the any GSIs that the program, those are general salary increases that the staff receive each year based on their union agreements. There are also employee comp and retirement adjustments that happen annually that can go up or down just depending. And then also any budget change proposals that come through based on the Bureau's needs or the department's needs. So those are the incremental changes that we make through this fall process, and that you'll see that that is proposed in the governor's budget, Jan 10. The second stage of this is what we call the spring process, is the enactment of the Budget Act. The governor is mandated to release his budget on the January 10th to be introduced, and then at the budget office then assist the administration to walk the legislature through our various adjustments that are being proposed. So for example, we would help the Bureau explain their budget change proposals if there are any that are submitted. So once the legislature approves the budget, the Bureau's budget is signed into law for the upcoming fiscal year, which is known as the Budget Act. And then the stage 3, what we call, is the implementation of the budget. So all boards and bureaus in the Department of Consumer Affairs are supported by at least one special fund. Professional fiduciaries, their fund is 3108, and they only have the one fund. A special fund is an account separate from the state's general fund in which a special revenue or a specified revenue is deposited. So the main revenue source for most are fees assessed to the licensees. So renewals, application fees, those are, that's what supports the board's expenditure or the Bureau's expenditures, excuse me. Additionally, the Bureau's special fund is a source from which all authorized expenditures are made. So every year you get an appropriation, so the Bureau must adhere to that appropriation. They can't exceed it. So as referenced earlier, the Bureau's budget appropriation is the budget approved in the Annual Budget Act, which becomes the appropriation for the corresponding fiscal year. So an appropriation is a total amount of funds for which the Bureau can make payments out of the special fund. I'll go a little bit further into it when we go over the Bureau's current fund condition. It just makes it a little bit more, it'll be easier for you to understand what I'm going through. But with that, I do want to go over the fund condition. I believe that might be attachment B. So the board's fund condition and expenditure projections are documents that are vital tools to use for, I keep saying boards and I apologize. But the Bureau's fund conditions are expenditures are documents that are a vital tool. We use these to identify if there's any potential financial decisions that the Bureau must make moving forward. With the Bureau's fund condition, how we look at it is in fiscal years. We look at the prior year, the current year, and then budget year. Anything moving forward, budget year +1, budget year +2, which you guys have are able to see, those are all estimates, and we usually use a static projection in those because we don't want to assume moving forward unless we actually have definitive information to be able to project for this. So we just usually project a static number in budget year +1 and budget year +2 and outgoing. So when you're looking at your fund condition right now, we have actuals for prior year. That's 1920. I know that we are in 21-22, so that is identified as budget year, but because we just closed the current year, 2021, last week, we were still identifying at the time that this document was uploaded as current year 2021. So we do have actuals through fiscal month 12, and they did not change when we close out the year. So what you're looking at are actuals for current year in 2021. And what it shows is that you have a beginning balance. And how I like to explain the fund conditions to everyone is more of like how you would look at your savings account. So it's money's coming in and then money's going out of, I guess, your checking account. So if all the revenue that's coming in and then your appropriation, which is on the second page, that identifies what you're expending. So we're looking at our beginning balance, say in 21-22 of 351,000, because what you're seeing are based in thousands. So $351,000 is the beginning balance. The Bureau is anticipating to bring in $736,000 in revenue, which gives you a total balance in your checking account of just over $1 million, almost 1.1 million. So with that, you're looking at an expenditure possibility or a projection of of $736,000. That's my revenue. Of $701,000, which gives your reserve for economic uncertainties of just over or just under 400,000. And that is something that the Bureau would like to keep as more of a reserve, because if there are anything that is of uncertainty that would happen, for example, the pandemic. And so if you're a profession that relies heavily on the revenues coming in to support the resources needed for the regulation and enforcement of those professions, if that work stops, so the revenue stops coming in, that doesn't mean that the work stops. And so the appropriations continues to be expended, but the revenue is no longer coming in, and then that puts you into a deficit of your fund. So even though you're expending less than what the revenue is coming in, if there are any uncertainties, it could be very detrimental to the fund. And so it's always nice to stay within a 3-month reserve level. And for a bureau that's as small as Fiduciaries is, any amount, within $100,000 or $50,000, that could be a big change to the fund level at the bottom. And so we do continually monitor smaller funds like this when they make those changes. But if there is an increase in appropriation, that could impact the fund reserve levels in out years. And so we just monitor that. And that's why we go out a couple years to kind of see the trend in your fiscal month or in your fund balance reserve. So, and I'll open up for questions after when we go over this, but if you have any questions on that reserve, I'd be happy to answer that in a little bit. So for fiduciaries, we are showing a reserve, months in reserve balance that has a potential to increase. The revenue is static. The expenditures are going up. However, the current year expenditures were less, and so that kind of shows that trend. However, if the expenditures continue to go up, which they have gone up, and we are getting a GSI, a general salary increase that we have included into your fund condition in this current year, and if any other expenditures or anything that comes to the Bureau's needs that they require additional resources, that will impact that reserve level. And so we just need to keep an eye on the revenues coming in to the expenditures going out. I'll go into the projection document really fast, and then I can open it up to any questions you have on the fund condition or on the projections. So that would be attachment A. And so when we go into our projections, the projections a tool that the budget office and the Bureau use to monitor the expenditures throughout the fiscal year. And that way we can also assist the Bureau making financial decisions, and while ensuring that they keep within their expenses of their authorized appropriation. These reports are updated on a monthly basis. So when we close a fiscal month, the analysts in our office complete a estimated projection for the Bureau and provide that to the Bureau. Usually within, depending on how we are doing with closing the fiscal month, usually within 15 to 30 days after the closure of that, we will provide these reports, these documents to the Bureau and his system, and making some adjustments to their projections and specific line items and so forth. When we go into these projection documents, these are actuals. Like I said, nothing has changed since fiscal month 12 and when we closed out the book, so these numbers are pretty accurate. I believe there might have been a $50 change in one of the expenditures. So I really am confident in these numbers as being actuals for you guys. So what it just shows that at the bottom of this page, the Bureau was able to revert back into their fund $28,000. So of a appropriation of expenditures that they could do in current year. So you're going to see that in that first blue column, the Bureau had an appropriation that they could expend of $577,000. And of that, they actually have, they've expended you guys have expended $548,714. So reverting back to your fund is $28,000. That's a savings that goes back into your fund. It's not a saving set. Well, we saved $28,000, and this is where the confusion is with a lot of members, is anything that we save this year, could we add on to the next fiscal year? It is not something that we do that way. We just revert it back to the fund. It helps their fund situation, but it is not something that we tack on to next fiscal year's appropriation. The appropriation is set, and then you'll see on your fund condition, that appropriation right now currently is set at $632,000. That is prior to any incremental budgeting or incremental changes that we are currently making right now. So that will change. The $632,000 will change once we adjust any of the employee comp, retirements, GSIs, anything else that comes through budget letters. I can open this up to any questions that you guys have. I'm here to answer whatever you need.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from committee members?
Good morning. This is Wendy Hatch, and I'm looking at, I'm not sure what schedule, but it's the 3108, the projection, I guess you were calling it.
Yes.
And under the revenues, transfers, and other adjustments, when we were looking at line item 7400, the renewal fees. So the prior year, you show 483,000. So if we would look at that and divide it by our 700 that we pay, so there's basically only approximately 690 licensees that paid renewal fees. And then if you go over budget year to the 563, and again, if we divide that by 700, are we talking about 804 fiduciaries that paid for their renewals?
So I will address the prior year first. The $483,000, that is the amount of renewal fees that were received in that fiscal year at the time of closure. So if, however, that's divided up, it would come out to that equation of the total licensees. We do have a workload revenue document that I can pull up to kind of identify how many actual, and there's also an open data portal that we can look into to see how many actual licensees renewed. And we can provide that to you a little bit later today if you want actual amount of licensees for the year. But yeah, 483 was collected in that fiscal year. There are potentials that late renewals will come in, which will come in and be identified in a prior year, at what we call a prior year adjustment. So as you see up on top of that document that you're looking at, there is a line item that says prior year adjustment. Anything that occurs to the Bureau's fund or makes an adjustment to the Bureau's fund that happens after the final closure of that year, it becomes a prior year adjustment and the books stay open for a couple years. So we can make those adjustments. So if a licensing fee for that year comes in, or licensing renewal comes in for that year, it could be adjusted to that year, but it's considered a prior year adjustment, and you'll see it in the following year's column. So I would not say divide 483 by 700 and say that's your number. I would more likely want to look into a different document to see if you need that exact number. For budget year, those numbers are estimates. It's not saying that is exactly how many licensees or how many has been brought in for that year. That is an estimate, and those numbers could be adjusted. We are coming up with a workload revenue drill right now, so we are working on that incremental adjustment as well. That's one of the adjustments that we make in the fall process. So that number may or may not increase or decrease depending on the assessment that the Bureau makes based on actuals that just happened and where they think they're going to come in with licensing renewals this fiscal year. So that was an estimate that was created last year when we do a current year and a budget year estimate of licensees.
I appreciate your explanation. I just, there's been crazy wild stories out there that, we have over 1,000 licensees and everybody's saying, well, if there's 1,000 licensees and we're all paying 700, that budget should be this much. And so I'm glad you were able to point out the actual renewal fee cost, revenue as a per line item. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other comments from committee members? Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a moderator. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 8, please type comment in the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. If you do not see the Q&A panel, you can click on the question mark within a square. In the lower right-hand corner of your screen, we are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's closed. And also, we seem to have skipped agenda item 7, so we will be heading back to agenda item 7, the update from the director's office.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the Bureau staff being on top of it. Thank you, Rebecca. I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs executive staff to present their update.
Good morning, Chair Elder, committee members, and Bureau Chief May. I'm Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for allowing me to provide a department update. DCA has been receiving many questions about when and how boards and committees will meet again in person and whether they can also continue to meet remotely. As the law and executive orders stand today, after September 30th, all boards and committees will be required to return to in-person meetings with publicly noticed meeting locations. However, due to ongoing changes in the COVID-19 pandemic, there is legislation pending that would extend the ability to meet remotely until at least January 2022. We don't have any concrete news today, so DCA will do all it can to assist boards and bureaus to plan safely for in-person meetings, and will keep you informed of any changes to meeting requirements. To combat the spread of COVID-19 and protect vulnerable communities, California is implementing enhanced safety measures for state employees and workers in healthcare settings. State employees must show proof of vaccination or be subject to regular COVID-19 testing and required to wear appropriate PPE. Board and committee members are considered employees and must follow health and safety protocols if they plan to visit a DCA location or attend an in-person committee meeting. Members must verify vaccination or follow face covering and testing protocols in accordance with that location's requirements. DCA's testing program is expected to begin rolling out next week. We know things are moving quickly and there is a lot of information, both official and unofficial. Statewide guidance for the use of face coverings from the California Department of Public Health remains in place unless the local health jurisdiction issues a stricter ordinance tailored for the situation in the community. Many counties have revised health orders requiring face masks to be worn by both vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals while indoors. I encourage all members and the public to visit DCA's COVID-19 webpage for updates and resources on the state's reopening plan, public health guidance, vaccinator resources, vaccine distribution, and more. As a reminder, 2021 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year. That means all employees and committee members are required to complete the training during this year. Please be advised that you will now access this training through the Learning Management System, or LMS, which is DCA's training portal. We have created profiles for each of you in the LMS and informed your Bureau Chief of the steps you need to take to log in and access the training. Board and Bureau Relations is also happy to assist you with any questions or concerns you have with using the LMS. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help. If there's anything we can do to assist, please reach out. This concludes my presentation, and I'll hand it back over to Chair Elder.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from committee members? The only comment I would like to add is just the reminder that Rebecca had sent to all of the committee members of the sexual harassment training and the link. So thank you again for doing that. Do we have any comments from the public?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. And if any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment in the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying the instructions for your reference, and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So now we're back on track. Item number 9 of the agenda, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Legislative Office to present the legislative update.
Thank you. My name is Bianca Angulo. I am the Legislative Analyst with the Legislative Division at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Some important dates on the legislative calendar. August 16th, the legislature reconvened from summer recess. August 30th through September 10th was floor session only. September 3rd was the last day to amend bills on the floor. September 10th was the last day for any bill to be passed. An interim recess began upon adjournment. October 10th is the last day for the governor to sign or veto bills passed by the legislature before September 10th and in the governor's possession on or after September 10th. I'll now provide a legislative update on 2021 legislation related to the Bureau. I will provide status updates on legislation and will read summaries for newly added bills since the June 23rd meeting. AB 29 Cooper, State Bodies Meetings. It's still a 2-year bill. AB 260 Stone, Guardianships. This bill was recently amended to remove the second portion regarding the state-funded kinship guardianship assistance payment program to be provided on behalf of any child under 18 years of age and to any eligible youth under 21 years of age. That has been removed from the bill. It was enrolled on September 9th. AB 339 Lee, State and Local Government Open Meetings. The title of this bill has now been changed to reflect that this bill only applies to local governments. It is now enrolled as of September 9th. AB 465 Nazarian, Professional Fiduciaries Pre-Licensing and Renewal or Restoration Education. It was enrolled and presented to the governor on September 8th. AB 574 Chen, Guardians Ad Litem Mental Illness, 2-year bill. AB 596 Nguyen, Appointed Legal Counsel, 2-year bill. AB 885 Quirk, Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, Teleconferencing, 2-year bill. AB 1062 Mathis, Conservators and Guardians Disposition of Property, 2-year bill. AB 1194 Low, Conservatorship. This bill has since been amended since this was distributed. I'm going to be reading you a new summary. This bill requires 1. A professional fiduciary with an internet website to post a schedule of fees on their website. 2. A licensed fiduciary to be liable for a civil penalty up to $10,000 if the court finds the professional fiduciary abused a conservatee. 3. The Judicial Council by January 1st, 2024, to report to the legislature its findings measuring court effectiveness in conservatorship cases. And 4. The Bureau to investigate specified allegations and impose sanctions or revoke an individual's license as appropriate. This bill also prohibits a guardian or trustee or an employee of the guardian or conservator to hire or refer business to an entity where they have a financial interest. This bill was enrolled on September 9th. SB 602, Laird, Review of Conservatorships Care Plans. This is a new bill added to the legislative bill. This bill would require a conservator within 30 days of appointment and 30 days before a hearing to submit a care plan to specified persons regarding the care, custody, and control of the conservatee. This bill would require the Judicial Council to develop the care plan. This bill would impose sanctions for failure to timely submit a care plan. This includes a court-imposed civil penalty of up to $5,000 unless the court determines there is good cause to not impose a penalty. This is a 2-year bill. At the June 23rd meeting, Ms. Hatch asked, is SB 602 related to private professional fiduciaries or public guardians? I reached out to the Senator's legislative director, and according to the legislative director, this bill will require all probate conservatees to have a care plan. This concept was proposed by a probate conservatorship task force, which was appointed by then Chief Justice Ronald George to make recommendations to improve the management of probate conservatorship cases in California trial courts. This bill may be enacted upon January 2022. SB 826, Committee on Business Professions and Economic Development. This is the annual omnibus bill authored by the Senate Business Professions and Economic Development Committee. The bill contains numerous technical and clarifying changes related to the Department of Consumer Affairs. As it relates to the Bureau, this bill would revise the work experience requirements for a person to be a licensee. This bill would add a guardian of a person, estate, or a person and estate to the work experience requirement. This bill was enrolled and presented to the governor on September 9th. I'm done.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from committee members?
Good morning. This is Wendy Hatch again regarding the Senate Bill 602. Thank you for responding to my question if it's regarding professionals. And now I understand it's both professionals and family members. I guess I just need some clarification. It says this bill will require that a conservator within 30 days of appointment and 30 days before a hearing. What does it mean, for every hearing, or is that for annual accountings, or the first primary appointment? Because 30 days prior we don't have access to confidential information, but and prior to what type of hearing would they require a care plan to be presented?
That isn't clear in the bill as of right now, but like I said, because it will be enacted upon in January 2022, that gives us time to work with the legislative office and potentially propose amendments to clarify the language. And that's something that we can do next year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Denise Nellis, I had a question on the SB 826. The bill would revise the work experience requirements. What was changed?
Okay.
Bianca, this is Rebecca. Did you want me to respond?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So SB 826 is a committee-sponsored bill, and technically typically, committee-sponsored bills make technical changes, and it is like a, for lack of a better word, everything in the kitchen sink gets thrown into one bill. And so there was one technical change that pertained to our bureau. It was a correction from a previous bill, AB 3144. That was, I want to say 2018. And that bill required personal representatives of the decedent's estate to be licensed by the bureau. However, the bill did not also specify that you could gain experience as a personal representative of a decedent's estate to count towards your experience requirements for licensure. So this corrects that. And I see that in the document here, it says this bill would add a guardian of a person, but it should be a personal representative of decedent's estate.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, this is Wendy Hatch again. You have to help me with my legislative information. I'm referring back to AB 574 and AB 596. Again, one's for mental illness, but they're all with regards to representing the proposed conservatee. When you read them, you refer to them as a 2-year bill. What does that actually mean, and where are we going to go with that?
So this year started a 2-year legislative session. So what that means is the bill was held in 2021, which means no action will be further taken this calendar year. In January 2022, the author can bring the bill back up and bring it back to the legislative session. So it didn't die, is what that means. It means it's still technically alive and it can be brought back starting January 2022. Did that help?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any comments from the public?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll open up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type comment in the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. If you're not seeing the Q&A panel, you can click on the question mark in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We are displaying instructions, and we do have a request for comment from Jerry Desmond. So Jerry, I'll give you permission to unmute yourself. Please remember there's a 2-minute limit, and I'll give you a 30-second warning. So Jerry, you should be able to unmute yourself now. And you're unmuted.
This is Jerry Desmond with PFAC, the Professional Fiduciary Association of California, with just a couple of brief comments on a few of the measures that were reported on and discussed today. First, I would note AB 465 by Assemblymember Nazarian, the measure that would establish a new requirement of 1 hour of training in cultural competency. We have worked with the author on the exact provisions that are in the bill, including the definition of cultural competency. And as the measure proceeds to the governor, PFAC is supporting that bill. On AB 1062 by Assemblymember Mathis, we have expressed, has to do with new requirements for prior to the disposal or abandonment of valueless property. We have expressed concerns to the author as PFAC with the difficulties of actually implementing that legislation with a number of the ambiguities that are there, including what is the definition of valueless property. I look forward to continuing to discuss with the author's office. And then third, AB 1194 by Assemblymember Lowe is a comprehensive measure that establishes a number of new changes to the Business and Professions Code and the Probate Code that directly impact licensees and the Bureau and the courts. PFAC has been engaged all throughout the legislative process on each of the
30
provisions.
seconds.
Thank you. And policy issues that are addressed, especially with regard to due process for any actions and investigations taken by the Bureau that could affect a licensee, as well as the appropriate role and discretion of the courts with court-appointed conservatorships and guardianships, And as that measure is a last set of amendments, and as it proceeds to the governor, we're neutral on that measure as well. Thank you.
All right, this is a moderator, and that is the only request we have for public comment. Madam Chair, would you like us to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you. And thank
You're
you for your
welcome.
comments. Moving on to agenda item number 10. Rebecca, would you please present the Bureau updates?
Thank you and good morning. I have a very long update for everyone today. So if it's okay with the chair, I'd like to pause between each segment to allow advisory committee members to ask questions. We can still take public comment at the end.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Bureau's most recent statistics can be found in the meeting materials if you want to follow along with me. So for licensing, the time period we're looking at here is July 1st, the start of the fiscal year, through the end of July 31st, 2021. During this month, we issued 3 new licenses. We accepted 0 new applications this month. At the end of the month, we had 827 active licensees. And also at the end of the month, we have licensed 1,258 total individuals since we started issuing licenses in 2008. Moving on to enforcement statistics, and I apologize, it should say fiscal year 2021 through 2022, but the second date is correct. So again, this is start of the fiscal year, July 1, 2021 through July 31st, 2021. This month, we initiated 0 cases with the Attorney General. We issued 0 citations. We received 6 complaints. We closed 4 complaints. We have 114 pending complaints, and we averaged 717 days to close complaints. So I am going to acknowledge that 717 is a high average for the number of days it took to close a complaint. So please allow me to explain it a little better. This handout tracks a short period of time from just the start of the fiscal year, July 1 to the end of July. During this month, we closed 4 complaints, one of which was very long, and it skewed the overall average higher. As I've stated in previous meetings, there's no firm or hard deadlines for closing complaints, and more complex, involved investigations will simply take more time. So do I have any questions from the committee members? Okay, moving on to our business modernization plan. So at our last meeting, I reported that the Bureau has been working with the department to enhance its online presence, and specifically that the Bureau would be able to accept credit card payments for license renewals. Regrettably, I have been advised by the department that the Bureau's fund condition cannot sustain this new ongoing expenditure. Accordingly, the Bureau is pausing its business modernization efforts at this time. This determination was based on multiple variables outside of the Bureau's control, including new legislative mandates, increased staffing costs, and the costs associated with system development to be able to accept credit cards. The Bureau understands that the California Department of Technology is starting a program to provide support for small IT projects for programs with limited funding. If and when CDT launches this program, the Bureau will apply. This setback is disappointing for sure, but the ongoing fiscal health of the Bureau is essential to making sure it can meet its core functions. I promise to keep you apprised of any updates in the future. Okay, moving on to outreach. I provided a Zoom presentation about the Bureau to a nonprofit serving seniors in San Francisco called Next Village on June 22nd. I also spoke at the Professional Fiduciaries Association of California, PFAC's annual conference welcome breakfast virtually on August 26th. If there are outreach events that the public or our advisory committee members would like for Bureau staff to attend, please contact the Bureau. Moving on, the fall newsletter. So we are starting to work on the fall newsletter. If there's any information that you would like included in the newsletter, please email the Bureau. I think we'll definitely have some legislative updates highlighted there. So moving forward to delays in mail delivery and receipt. So as I stated last time, the Bureau has been struggling with post office delays and misrouted mail to the Bureau. Most of the issues seem to stem from the Bureau's post office box, which was closed on June 30th. The post office should be forwarding mail for 6 months after the box closes. However, this does not appear to always be the case. In addition to closing the P.O. Box, the Bureau has updated all of its forms and mailing materials with its physical address and updated its regulations to reflect the address change. We hope this will help facilitate receiving correspondence timely. I'll discuss the regulatory update a little later in the agenda. Please mail any correspondence to the Bureau's physical address, 1625 North Market Street, Suite S 209, Sacramento, California 95834. If you would like confirmation that your correspondence was received, please send it via a delivery method that allows for tracking. If you are a licensee and any part of your renewal has been returned to you, please resend your correspondence to the Bureau's physical address and include a copy of the returned envelope. Moving on to sunset review. So the legislature recently advised the Bureau that our sunset review has been pushed forward to 2023 instead of 2022. Sunset review is the process by which the Bureau undergoes a thorough review by the legislature, typically once every 4 years, to ensure we are meeting our mandates. This process includes drafting a very detailed report regarding the Bureau's functions and attending a public hearing before the Senate and Assembly Business and Professions Committees to discuss the Bureau. After the hearing, the legislature will introduce a bill to extend the Bureau's sunset date. Given that the Bureau is currently scheduled to sunset on January 1, 2023, and the legislature won't be reviewing the Bureau next year, the legislature amended an existing bill, SB 607, to extend the Bureau's sunset to January 1, 2024. I apologize, this bill was not included in the legislative update earlier because it was amended after the Bureau had prepared this agenda. However, SB 607 is currently awaiting the governor's signature. We will be sure to add this bill to the next meeting's agenda, and I will also provide updates regarding sunset review as things start to move again next year. So moving on to the complaint investigation process overview. We have received many requests during our advisory committee meetings to explain the Bureau's complaint and investigatory process. I appreciate the desire to know the Bureau's inner workings as it relates to enforcement, but we cannot discuss specific investigatory procedures. Not only is this information privileged, but divulging how the Bureau operates could jeopardize current and future investigations. I can, however, provide a basic run-through of our process that I hope will be helpful to you. The Bureau is mandated by law to review each and every single complaint it receives, and it takes this mandate seriously. Complaints can come in a variety of methods: phone, mail, fax, email, and can come from a variety of sources, including consumers, other professional fiduciaries, concerned members of the public, other state and government agencies, etc. The reasons complaints are submitted run the gamut, but they usually allege poor management of a person's care or estate or poor delivery of services. Due to the potential complexity of investigating and determining violations of the Professional Fiduciaries Act, the time frame for determining the outcome of complaints varies. If a complaint falls outside of the Bureau's jurisdiction, Bureau staff notify the complainant as soon as possible and refer them to the appropriate investigative agency. Complaint information is private, meaning it is not subject to public disclosure, and Bureau staff are careful to honor the privacy of both complainants and licensees. However, if the Bureau takes administrative or disciplinary action against a licensee, that action is posted to the Bureau's website. The posting on the Bureau's website includes the name of the licensee and the accusation or citation document, and does not include investigative records. Enforcement actions can include, but are not limited to, citations, fines, and letters of reprimand for lesser violations, or probation or revocation of a license for more serious violations. More serious violations, the Bureau will partner with the Attorney General's office to file an accusation against the licensee. All licensees are entitled to due process as it relates to the enforcement process. It bears noting that the Bureau has authority to take action against a professional fiduciary's license for violations of the Professional Fiduciaries Act. However, the Bureau does not have jurisdiction over the probate court and cannot remove a conservator, trustee, agent under durable power of attorney, guardian, or personal representative, nor can the Bureau alter the terms of a trust or conservatorship. In these scenarios, Bureau staff always recommend that a complainant consult an attorney to discuss their options. Complaints alleging criminal activity, such as theft or elder abuse, should be reported to law enforcement or adult protective services. Bureau staff recently updated the Bureau's website to make the complaint process clearer to the public and our licensees. That information is contained within today's meeting materials. Okay, moving on to our strategic plan enforcement objective.
Wait, can the committee make a comment on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Chief, this is Wendy Hatch. I know I brought up these questions at the last meeting. I really do appreciate this laying out of the format of the plan. I appreciate the bullet points and this laying out, bullet point number 3, where the Bureau cannot conduct criminal investigations, nor can the Bureau determine whether a criminal violation. And then the next bullet point, where basically the Bureau may require court involvement, and that you just don't, that you basically need to wait until the probate court makes a wise decision, or a decision, and the Bureau cannot oversee, the last bullet point, oversee the probate court and cannot overturn a court decision. So I appreciate you laying out, and your team laying out what your limitations and investigations can involve and can't involve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hatch. Okay, so moving on to the strategic plan, our enforcement objective. So during the next agenda item, we'll be examining the first objective from the Bureau's strategic plan related to licensing. However, at our next meeting in December, I would like for the advisory committee to examine the second objective related to enforcement. In the meeting materials, you'll see 4 corresponding goal objectives the Bureau set out on this topic. The Bureau has accomplished or moved forward on the first 3 objectives. Objective 2.1 is a forever goal, for lack of a better way of putting it. Bureau staff are always reviewing statute and regulation to determine if changes are needed to enhance its enforcement efforts. When staff determine changes to statute are needed, those needs are communicated to the department and the administration. Further, given that sunset review will be happening in 2023, this provides a very valuable opportunity for the Bureau to suggest changes in statute. As it relates to regulations, the Bureau has moved several rulemakings past the finish line and continues to work toward identifying changes and pursuing the promulgation of regulations with the assistance of the department. As was provided to you a few moments ago, the Bureau has updated its website to include complaint and enforcement information, thereby completing Objective 2.2. There's always a possibility that the Bureau will further refine the information provided on its webpage, and I'll update you if any significant changes are made in the future. And Objective 2.3 requires a database update, and the Bureau is working with the Department's Office of Information Services to determine the feasibility to complete this item and the costs involved. Item 2.4 is what remains incomplete. We will agendize this objective at our next meeting to allow the committee members to bring some ideas forward for discussion. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to our chair, Ms. Elder.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from committee members?
Oh, hi, this is Jim Moore. I just wanted to, I think it's just a minor housekeeping comment. Rebecca, when you gave the address of where to mail all the correspondence to, you said 1625 North Market Street. Is it North Market Street or North Market Boulevard?
It's Boulevard, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
It's plastered all over the website and all of our forms. It's correct any which way that you want to look it up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for catching that.
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm opening up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, we have a couple of requests for comment. The first one from James Counts. And James, just a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning, and I will give you permission to unmute yourself. So you have been given permission to unmute yourself. There you are. And
thank you very much. This is Jim Count, CPA. Some numbers, questions regarding the budget versus your report on active members. Your current active members, you're saying, is 827, yet in the budget renewal fees, the numbers being used for renewal fees doesn't agree or come close to the active licenses. Are you dropping off large numbers every year so that, where renewals for 2021 was for 747 people, for 21-22 budget is 804, and so it appears that you've got large numbers of licensees not renewing, and that's questions I had.
All right.
Hi.
Our next, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, this is Rebecca May, the Bureau Chief. I just wanted to respond. So there have not been, at least in the few years that I've been with the Bureau, the number of active licensees has just kind of steadily crept upwards. There haven't been any large drop-offs that I've seen in those numbers. For why that number of licensees might not jive with the budget number, that would have to be more of a question for Karen, and I'm not sure if she's still on, but we can find out and provide that to you, Mr. Counts, if you would like.
All right. And our next comment is from Richard Calhoun. And Richard, I will give you permission to unmute yourself, so you should be able to unmute yourself. All right, so Richard, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Richard Calhoun. I have 3 quick comments. If one case took a lot longer than the other 3 cases to close, it'd be nice to know the long case because it appears to be over 5 years. As far as the cases of complaints, it would be nice to categorize them. For example, having reviewed the complaints from the public website, there isn't a single complaint about care that's been disciplined by the board. And as far as what the board investigates, it would be really nice to get a better handle on that. For example, I have turned in complaints where licensees bill for more than 24 hours a day. And I think everybody knows that that can't possibly happen, but yet the Bureau determines that that's not a violation of any regulation. How is it not a violation to bill for more than 24 hours a day? Does a licensee get a time machine when they get licensed? This is ridiculous. 4 out of 4 licensees that I've investigated all bill for more than 24 hours. 2 of those have been turned in. Both say that that's something the Bureau doesn't find wrong. This Bureau is not consumer friendly according to their mission statement. I think this advisory committee needs to start asking, where's the time machine? I'll get a license just to get a time machine because I would like to have more than 24 hours in a day. I need to sleep, I need to eat, I need to commute, I need to go to the bathroom. I couldn't even bill for 12 hours a day if I tried. This is just, window dressing. That's it.
All right, this is the moderator, and that is the last of our requests for public comment. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your comments. Thank you, Rebecca. We will move on to item number 11. Rebecca, would you please open up the discussion on strategic planning items 1.1 and 1.2?
Thank you, Chair Elder. So at our June meeting, I asked the advisory committee members to please help the Bureau along in meeting the objectives spelled out in its strategic plan. Specifically on today's agenda is our first objective, which is related to licensing. So the Bureau has struggled with a small licensing population since its inception. At the end of July, the Bureau had only 827 active licensees. Though this number has steadily climbed over the years, California's population is aging, outpacing any gains in our licensing population. Further, there are rural counties in California with almost no licensees. A small licensing population hinders consumer access to professional fiduciaries and depresses consumer choice. Further, as we discussed during the budget update, the Bureau is funded solely through licensing and renewal fees, and a small licensing population results in higher than average fees and a small staff to carry out the Bureau's functions. So would anyone like to provide their thoughts regarding item 1.1?
Any comments from the committee?
This is Denise Nelson. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I think if we could possibly, I know this is staff time, but reaching out to like social work schools and social work organizations and paralegals who maybe there'd be some that would be interested in going this direction. Thinking of other avenues where we could, present the positives of being a fiduciary and, how helpful it is for people, how needed it is, that kind of thing. I don't know what budget we'd have for something like that, but maybe we could work with the professional organization on it.
I agree. There's definitely a nexus between this profession and with social work. At least anecdotally, it seems that sometimes retired social workers will move into this line of work. It's not the super uncommon to hear that.
So this is Elizabeth Ishikawa, and I had a question or a thought. Has the Bureau ever thought about creating some kind of pilot program with one of the community colleges for creating either an associate's degree that might feed into this profession, or they have the career and technical schools at community colleges that when you complete the program, they provide a certificate. I think mechanics, I think there's some for like mechanics and lab technicians that might help generate interest. I was thinking if that was something that might be looked at, trying to find, start with an area that might have a high need, like for professional fiduciaries, just to try to get a program like that off the ground. And then maybe it could filter into some of the smaller, more rural communities. But I think trying to find people not already like really in a profession, but maybe just starting out might be helpful. And then my other thought was, has the Bureau done much outreach with like local bar associations and presenting presentations to them? Because I know that a lot of bar associations have monthly meetings, like lunch meetings, where they do presentations as continuing education opportunities, but it might be a way to get some outreach through the attorneys across the state. And then the third thought I had was, I think I'd read in some of the material about creating mentorship programs with existing professional fiduciaries, but bringing in attorneys that specialize in probate into mentorship programs might be helpful as well, because they are so very experienced in this line of work. And it seems as though a lot of the professional fiduciaries I work with, they do have a pretty good relationship with at least one attorney to help them through the legal process. So anyway, those were my thoughts.
Thank you. I think those are great. We have not reached out to the community colleges.
Chief, can I talk for a minute?
Yeah, please.
Hi, this is Wendy Hatch, a professional fiduciary. And I was on the administrative committee to actually, Cal State Fullerton has a wonderful extension program to get certificates out for to be a professional fiduciary management and professional fiduciaries for conservatorships and trusts. I think it's UC Riverside. I might be wrong. Also has a wonderful certificate program. The Professional Fiduciaries Association, PFAC, also has a fiduciary academy that people can even inquire and, dip their toe in and review. I know PFAC's Fiduciary Academy is mostly virtual. PFAC also has statewide, region, and local chapter meetings, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Orange County, and invite anybody that's interested. We also offer brown bag for people that would like to be interested in meeting with experienced fiduciaries. I know a lot of us as professional licensed fiduciaries, we are active members. I know I'm an active member in the Los Angeles Bar, the Long Beach Bar Probate Association, Women Lawyers of Long Beach, and a lot of estate planning trust councils of Long Beach. So we are outreaching and trying to enhance this whole career. I mean, we can only handle so many cases, and I mean, I've been a practicing fiduciary for over 30 years, and it's an intriguing, exciting, wonderful profession. But we just a lot of people get very discouraged due to the regulations and the restrictions and issues that are brought on to us on regarding courts and fees and things like that. But that's the negative. But the positive thing is, this is a wonderful profession. We try to sell it. Every day is a new day. You can think you're going to have a day set in stone, but by the time you get off the elevator, something new and exciting has happened, and you're there to help people and to help families, conquer. If families and people didn't have a problem, we wouldn't have a job. So you talk to any professional, and that's how we kind of look at our profession. If somebody can get us a crystal ball out there to help cultivate, we're more than willing and able to do any outreach. And thank you for your time, Chief.
Rebecca, my thought is in terms of just expanding, awareness and outreach, because I know that the Bureau has a very, thin staff and limited resources. So perhaps, there were a lot of recommendations in terms of which organizations, associations to outreach to, perhaps having some type of roundtable or focus group where you're inviting all of those recommended key stakeholders to one convening to discuss professional fiduciaries and the process. And so, so all the ones that have already been listed, I would also recommend, including in that convening local municipalities. So, city offices, city and county offices, they have different departments: Department of Aging, Children, Family Resources. So that would be an idea of expanding that outreach and just raising awareness. I think another thing is in terms of entry into the profession. If the cost is or the fees or maybe cost prohibitive for some populations, populations that are below a certain threshold. I don't know if there's anything that that is in terms of like a sliding scale for the fee. So if the applicant meets is below a certain income threshold, then either they have a fee waiver or there's a sliding fee. So I'm just thinking of ways to decrease barriers of entry into this profession and also increase the diverse population that is applying.
Thank you. I gleaned quite a bit in my notes, and so thank you so much. I'm grateful that this was an agenda item today. So moving on to item 1.2, and it ties in with 1.1. The Bureau recognizes that prospective applicants often work under a professional fiduciary licensee in order to learn the profession and to gather experience prior to licensure. It would be great to find a way to encourage qualified licensees to mentor potential applicants. It would certainly increase the knowledge base for new licensees and provide them a valuable resource, someone to ask questions. There's a few issues to consider with this idea, though. First, how do we determine if the licensee has sufficient experience themselves to be able to adequately train someone else? And how, secondly, how would we, as the Bureau, be able to encourage licensees to spend their time mentoring potential licensees? And perhaps most daunting when considering an apprenticeship program are the few resources the Bureau can reasonably allot to establishing and overseeing it. So does anyone want to share their ideas regarding item 1.2? See, this was a hard one, right? And the strategic plan is definitely our goals and our utmost ideals of what we would like to accomplish, but it doesn't mean that everything on the strategic plan gets completed. So that being said, if there's no questions or comments from the committee, I'd like to turn this back over to our chairwoman. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the conversation today.
Thank you, Rebecca. Were there any other additional comments from committee members?
This is Denise Nelson. I think there was a lot of things that we talked about in 1.1 that could apply to 1.2. I think in terms of the community college courses, they can set up apprenticeship scenarios with professionals in the community, and and the association, the professional association, already has apprenticeship programs. I think when we look at doing this, it's so broad to think of it as a statewide thing, but perhaps we can regionalize some of these efforts in terms of reaching out to various schools, community colleges, and professionals.
Oh, hi, this is Jim Moore. I just also wanted just to dovetail on that and say that I think all of us who are professional fiduciaries and licensed, I know that I've had several employees that have come through my office who have learned the ropes, so to speak, and both of the two women that I had come through my office are now licensed professional fiduciaries. So I think all of us as professional fiduciaries, who especially those who've been around a long time, I think Wendy and I have been probably the longest as fiduciaries. I think that's a good way to also get the word out, is by who we hire in our offices.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will open up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions for your reference. And we do have a comment from Richard Calhoun. So Richard, I'll let you know when you're able to unmute yourself. And just a reminder, we do have a 2-minute limit with a 30-second warning. All right, Richard, you should be able to unmute yourself.
It was interesting listening to the discussion on how to expand the number of licensees. Every comment was focused on increasing the supply. What about focusing on the consumer and increasing the demand for licensees? I don't think your licensees are overworked, all 824 of them. I think you have a consumer issue, me included, where the number one disqualification is a license from the state of California and the PFB. If the PFB would look at the care the licensees provided, if it would look at things like billing more than 24 hours a day, if it was something that would increase the character of the people that had a license, then people like myself that have been advocating for reform would recommend a professional licensee. Right now, my number one recommendation is never hire a professional fiduciary, basically because of the Bureau. And, my experience is everyone I've investigated that has a license is a crook, treats their people terribly. The number one thing they do is move them into a facility. That's exactly what the consumer doesn't want. Look at this as a demand side equation, and you'll flip the Bureau on its head. That's it.
All right, this is the moderator. I see no further requests for comment. Madam Chair, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you, Rebecca. Moving on to item number 12, Rebecca, would you please present the status of the Bureau's proposed rulemakings?
Thank you. My update today is similar to my June update. The inactive and retired license type rulemaking remains in the pre-review process, meaning we're still working on it here within the department, and it has not yet been filed with the Office of Administrative Law. The proposed client notification regulation, the second bullet there, was filed with the Office of Administrative Law on February 23rd, 2021, and the public comment period closed June 8th, 2021. Bureau staff are working with the department's legal counsel to work through the comments received. As this proposed regulation moves through the process, Bureau staff will continue to notify the interested parties list at each step. The proposed language and supporting documentation can be found on the Bureau's website. As always, I will continue to provide updates at our advisory committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from committee members? Any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will open up the Q&A panel, and if any members of the public would like to make a comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all participants. We are displaying instructions for your reference, and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Rebecca. Moving on to item number 13. Rebecca, please present the update on the Bureau's approved rulemakings.
Thank you. So this approved rulemaking is a Section 100 change, meaning it doesn't materially alter current regulations. And because of that, Section 100 changes move through the process much more quickly. This Section 100 change updated the Bureau's address in regulations, replacing a reference with the Bureau's now closed post office box with the Bureau's physical address. It was approved by OAL on July 14th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from committee members? Any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm opening up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. This is the moderator, and Madam Chair, I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Rebecca. Item number 14. Angela, what items have you recorded from our meeting today for consideration to be included on future agendas?
Hello. So there were a couple of items that I think were probably a request for being put on the agenda or for consideration. One was the types of cases that action has been taken on. And then another was the difference between the number of active licensees in the statistics as opposed to the number of renewed license on the budget report. So an update on what that difference is, why there's a difference there. There's also a couple of things that we always have on the last meeting of the year, and that is chair and vice chair elections, as well as we will have a proposed list of dates for 2022 meetings. And that's all I have, unless I missed something or if somebody has something additional.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any other items the committee members would like to add? Are there any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will open up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, we have a request for comment from James Counts. So James, you've been given permission to unmute yourself and you're muted. This is the moderator. James, you were unmuted, so we'll see if we can get you unmuted again. You should be, there you go.
Okay. I'm not sure how much of this applies to the Fiduciary Bureau, but Recently, I became aware that are individuals out there suing people that have websites that do not have closed caption on videos that's on their website. And I've not looked on the Fiduciary Bureau to see if you've got videos posted on your website, but you might take a look if you do to see if you as a government agency are required to have closed caption. And this is under the ADA federal law. Also, to the extent, this may be outside of your purview, maybe PFAC can go into it for their membership, is there a requirement for members or licensees to have closed caption on any videos that they may have attached to their website? Because like I said, there's individuals going out suing people that have these websites and trying to get, from what I understand, $9,000 to $13,000 as a settlement for not going to court. End of comment.
All right, this is a moderator and I see no further requests for comment. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your comments. And thank you, Angela. Item number 15 of the agenda, the following meeting date is the last date scheduled for 2021. Proposed meeting dates for 2022 will be presented during the December meeting. If you have a conflict with this proposed date, please contact Angela Quadra. And do we have any comment from committee members? Any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will open up the Q&A panel. And if any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We will give you a moment and are displaying instructions. This is a moderator, Madam Chair. I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Angela. The meeting is adjourned. The time is 11:38 a.m. Pacific time.
Thank you, everyone.